I'm ready now. I'm ready to get into it. We got two things to talk
Wait,
about.
let's actually open up the episode.
True.
Hey, everybody, welcome to episode 11 of the Honored Ones podcast. If by some miracle I've gotten Adobe Premiere to work and you've seen episode 10, then this is going to be a couple days after that, just to give myself some time in between. Honestly, at this point, I'm just trying to release episode 10 as soon as possible. I'm not even going to wait for like our Thursday slot
Okay.
like I normally do because it's just been like, 3 weeks since episode
I
9.
think it's been a while.
So I'm just trying to get this thing out. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So it's like done. It's just about exporting it. So that's the only thing that's bugging me. Shorter episode, hopefully, depending on whether or not Ronin and I can pace ourselves, which is like something we have a very bad habit of not being able to do. Like
Yeah.
we're very bad at
I
pacing
think
ourselves.
we're particularly bad with certain tangents we'll go on for stretches of time that sometimes you guys don't even get to hear. Um,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to cut those out because I think last episode was like we had an R-rated section, and then other times it'll just be so
Oh yeah.
unrelated to what we're talking about. Like it just won't make sense, I think, for the episode.
Yeah, either like they spoil an insane amount of our videos that are still like unreleased, or they'll straight up be like something completely unrelated that only the two of us care about.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's even though we seem long-winded with what you guys are seeing, it's maybe half of what we actually talk about on here. So
Yeah,
we'll try to keep it brief here.
like no joke, last episode we were shooting for about 3 hours. We stopped shooting in our R-rated segment after 8 or 9 minutes that I cut, and then I had to cut an additional 42 minutes that was just straight up like us spoiling our next videos, talking about just like background YouTube stuff. And it was a mess, dude. We just like, and the funniest part, transition was so aggressive between when we stopped talking about JJK and when we started like going off on these like we just started branching off so aggressively that like it literally when you hear it back in real time, it sounds like a cut. Like that's how unrelated it
Like
sounded. It's crazy.
that's funny. But speaking of JJK, let's get into it, right? What did you think about this chapter? Because this chapter was wild.
Yeah, bro. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I hesitate to give JJK chapters tens out of 10s anymore because when Gege does something that I feel is like a 12 out of 10, I
Yeah.
feel it just shifts the entire scale, just completely shifts what a 10 even is anymore for JJK. And this chapter, like it's a 10 out of 10. I'm bumping all my previous 10s except for maybe one or
This
two
chapter was
down to
it's
8s.
wild because I feel like most of other authors would span out this type of plot information over 2 or 3 chapters just because like there is so much action here. And
Mhm.
that's not shaded any authors or shaded Akutami. I think it's just his writing style to be very fast. But it's just like we go from Megumi finishing his
Love it.
conversation with Reggie to I can't remember either of their names, but comedy sorcerer that's like Gojo level potential Gojo level potentially versus explosion guy,
Yes, dude, we
right?
have to
That
get
fight
into
kind of
so
happens.
much.
Then we move to like Megumi getting ready to do whatever to Remi or finish her off. Then Angel pops up. Then we have like these like 4 special grade plus level threats in colony. I don't know what colony. Wait, let me see. I know it's not the Tokyo colony, but it's the Sendai colony, right?
And then to cap it all off, you get Yuta just slaughtering one of them,
Yeah,
and he's already at like 45 points,
yeah.
meaning this guy's like on a 7 kill
He's
streak. Oh my god. Okay,
wild.
we have,
All right, let's
dude.
take it point by point.
Yeah, JJK chapters, first off, are just so damn like not condensed, but like they're so efficient. And I love Gege's writing for that because there is no dragging out, right? Like once a thing is done, he just moves on to the next thing.
I agree 100%. But what do you think about Reggie and Megumi's like final dialogue here? What are your thoughts?
Oh my god, so much. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts. First off, confirmed that Reggie is an old school
Yep.
sorcerer, which surprised me.
Yep.
Because his technique is a little weird
Mhm.
in retrospect because it's receipts, like
So I saw someone on Twitter saying
like
receipts came into like fruition like in the 1800s. So like he could be relatively old. Like in comparison to like a Kenjaku or a Tengen, no, not really. But he's not. He's
like
definitely you can definitely make sense of him being an older age sorcerer. Even with his like receipt based technique.
I mean sure, but also there's like some other stuff that seems a little weird, like how comfortable he was using like cars, for example. Like
Mhm.
he seemed just like a normal like current day sorcerer,
Yeah.
right? Like So that was a big shock to me personally when I was reading it. Thought it was really cool, especially that like, based on the discussion we had last chapter, I still do not know if Reggie was actually like strong. Like, where would you put him? I put him at
He's
like
definitely,
grade
yeah, he's a
one.
grade one sorcerer. I think you could probably place him in like vaguely that. I would say if like because grade one's kind of a wildly varying benchmark. Um, I would say that grade one in like that Nanami tier, we see that like maybe he's not as physically dominant, but I think his technique is pretty powerful, and he has like the skill of like simple domain, something that Nanami
Mm-hmm.
didn't have. Like, so I think at least even if you don't want to argue like he'd win against Nanami for whatever reason, like skill wise in the verse, I'd say he's like that upper echelon of like grade one, but he's able to take on like some fodder special grade curses or something like that, like a finger bearer or something. Especially when you consider
Yeah,
how much of trouble he gave Megumi.
yeah, and I like to think about the finger bearer every now and then because I definitely feel like maybe special grade was a bit too generous for that kind of creature because like we've seen special grades, right? Like True Blue, Mahito, Jogo, fucking special grades. So I don't know if the finger bearer really necessarily deserves that
I
placement.
think
You know, when you take a holistic look at JJK as a
I
series.
think that the thing is, special grade actually, when you look at it, probably has a bigger gap between the bottoms of special grade and the tops of it than grade four
Mhm.
to grade one. I would have because let's look at it, right? So um like we have special grades. Obviously we said the finger bearer. The finger bearer classified as these special grade curses. Um but you know, two finger Sukuna dominates it, right? And then we know Jogo's like eight finger Sukuna level or something like that, eight or nine finger, right? He would dominate that Sukuna. Then Sukuna's 15 finger dominates Jogo to the point where it's not even close. So special grade has, I think, a very, very large gap in between it. So like being the bottom of special grade does not mean a lot in the like in the totality of Jujutsu Kaisen. That's why I think being a special grade sorcerer is so hard because even if you could take on several tiers of special grade curses, if you can't beat like a Jogo one on one or like a Mahito one on one, you're not like
But they're rare,
yeah,
no?
they are rare, but that's why because a special a sorcerer of equal grade is expected to be able to take on any curse within their same grade. So Nanami would never lose to a grade one curse. Most like under most circumstances. Obviously, there can be some like weird outlier. So like you have to be able to take most curses in your grade, except for like this crazy outlier.
I just realized I've been thinking about like maybe the grade system in a completely wrong way. Maybe it's not like an appraisal of the cursed spirit's power, but more an appraisal of what level of sorcerer can deal with it comfortably.
Exactly. So think of it like this, right? Nanami will never lose to a grade one. He can beat some special grades, right? That's why
Low special
that's why
grades.
I think he would beat like a finger bearer curse, right? Or any curse spirit that doesn't
Right.
have a domain expansion, which can still be special grades, right? That's why I think he'd be able to put up a fight against like because Esso and or I think it was Esso that was a special grade as well.
No, Eso and Kechizu, I think was his name. They were not.
Kechizu I don't think was. I'm pretty sure Esso was a special grade.
I don't think they are because Choso's. I wouldn't consider him like maybe like mid special grade, low mid special grade, but not like much
Oh, I
higher.
agree.
Because
They're
okay,
not they're not in the high tiers, but I'd
be,
say this, right? If we say that Yuji can damage Hanami, who is like a confirmed bona fide special grade with like his base attacks, right?
yes.
When Choso like
Hmm.
enhances his durability, Yuji's fists don't do anything, right? I don't think like a curse that's not in the special grade tier is just eating any attack from Yuji. I just think there's a certain level of like dominance or like durability you have to have or cursed energy amounts rather that you have to have in order to be able to like that's kind of a benchmark for me. So like Esso could fight a Yuji without Black Flash. In fact, he was like shown to be somewhat like he's swapping hands before Yuji pulls off a Black
Yeah.
Flash and things like that. When you use
Uh
Hanami
huh.
as a benchmark for what a special grade is, I think you can rather easily get like maybe Esso is a little bit more contentious, but I think Choso for sure because Choso was definitively stronger than Yuji, and Yuji only made it as close as he was because he had outside help. I think a lot of people forget that thing. Like Yuji is not relative to Choso when they fight, right? Yuji's relative to a Choso that is handicapped, right? Because Choso had 90% of his arsenal taken away when they were shown to be super close in battle, right?
With the rain,
Yeah,
not the rain, with the sprinkler
yeah,
system.
Choso
Yeah.
had taken away Piercing Blood, which was an attack that disabled Yuji's arm for like half the fight, right? He took away Supernova. He took away most of his abilities, and when Choso does get to use them, he pierces Yuji's liver, right? So it's not like they aren't really relative. Choso's clearly dominant. It's just Yuji has help.
Choso is honestly, I'd say, physically subpar to Yuji. I think that's a fair assessment when you speak about them generally. Like even when he does the thing that Kamo does, it like he obviously has like the more evolved version, or at least the more
Yeah, where
refined
he's
version of the blood technique. Yeah. So you know that thing Kamo does where he can like roid
yeah.
himself and like boost his
Mhm.
stats physically. I'm thinking Chozo can probably most likely do the same thing, and I still think, despite that, Yuji still outclasses him physically, especially now, right? However, Chozo is like more of a technical fighter than Yuji because of this, and he has like the arsenal to spare.
Mhm.
Like he has variety in his
Sure.
techniques. So I kind of want to branch off of this debate that we had last week, and I want to say one thing. Do you think Megumi would have a harder or easier time with Chozo?
Than Yuji did.
Yes.
Megumi would it depends. If you're saying Megumi now, depends. But a Megumi in Shibuya would definitively lose to Choso. I don't want to say definite. No, he probably puts him in a similar position and still loses because I think Megumi maybe uses Max Elephant, right, to get the same water effect. Um, and
Right.
then it's just they get hand to hand. No, Megumi's not that dumb. He wouldn't like run up on Choso like that. I just don't think. Mm, that's difficult.
And also keep in mind, Chozo's blood would definitely have a much bigger effect on Megumi because he's not like the weird
Yeah,
physical monster that
Megumi would
Yuji is to like resist the
yeah,
poison.
Megumi would
Yeah.
definitively lose, especially like Shibuya arc Megumi. He would lose pretty badly if they're in the if you just switch out their positions, right? Megumi probably loses much quicker and to a much worse degree than Yuji does. Um,
Especially because Chozo is shown to be obviously not like a dumb opponent.
yeah, like Choso's not smarter than Megumi. I don't think so. Um,
Hmm?
but I think,
But he's
but
like he.
he's clearly like has a lot of potential and can think on his feet, right?
Mhm.
Because he's able to evolve, like he's able to adapt to the situation relatively quickly. He
And he's got enough variety to like adapt to all of Megumi's
mhm,
techniques and honestly respond in
yeah,
kind. You know, also when you keep in mind his other fight, like with Noya,
mhm,
he was like he found a way to contend with him despite like the gap in their speed.
yeah,
And did you see the amount of blood he was using though? The guy had like a mini ocean
for
on him.
sure. I think that's like a Choso that's kind of like evolved in their fight, similar to Yuji. Um, but the only like I don't have contention with anything else you said. The only thing I disagree with is that Choso isn't. Maybe you can argue Yuji might be a little bit faster and a little bit stronger, but I think it's close enough to the degree where you could say these are basically equal. And the reason I say that is because
No.
Choso, there is a point, like there is like a 5 page sequence where they're literally just going back and forth, blocking each other's attacks like continuously, not just like this one off attack. I think especially when
With Yuji or Naoya?
no, with Yuji, not with Naoya. Naoya was much
Oh,
faster.
okay.
With Yuji, when he
Yeah.
uses the like the whatever where he dopes up when he uses it in the bathroom to amp himself or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, he's able to like
Right.
completely swap hands with Yuji to a degree where I think you can't say
Mm-hmm.
they're not relative. Like if you want to say Yuji might have an edge in speed and strength, but it's just one that I don't think is like it's not worth noting. It's to such a small degree where I think they're just basically even.
You know, one of these days I want to make like a semi-comprehensive physical strength power list for JJK because I think it'd be really fun. But also I think it would go a long way into like scaling these characters a little bit more
Yeah.
quickly. Like for example, doped up Chozo slash Kamo is still physically weaker than like Yuji without cursed energy, maybe like as he is now. And maybe Yuji with cursed energy is still like a level below awakened Maki, and then maybe awakened Maki is slightly weaker than like Toji.
Mm.
Like it's like I don't know. I'm trying to like do a mental list, and then you have characters like Nanami or Hanami are hard to scale physically because striking power versus like durability is like a different feat, and then strength. So I'm curious
Mm.
like the obvious one like the obvious placement is Toji and Maki at like the top tier,
Yeah,
right?
maybe if you want to say like Gojo and Yuta, Yuta, you probably
Yeah.
can't get
See,
Yuta up there.
here,
You can get Yuta like a tier above Yuji, I think. Yuta, not yet. I'll say this: you can't put him there yet because I don't think he has the feats for that yet.
yeah. So here's the thing that's bugging me about Yuta, and that's the thing I wanted to talk about next. Not only for this chapter, I know it's at the end, but like I want to go in like order of just like the way this conversation flows,
Yeah,
if you
that's
don't mind. So with Yuta's appearance, right? It got me thinking about his like spat with Yuji, where I'm
Holding
like,
back 100%. That's my opinion.
no, but in what way, right? Because if he's like, is he just like when he was fighting Yuji like hand to hand or like sparring with him or whatever? I wonder if he was scaling himself physically to the maximum amount, still like playing with him in the sense that like like Yuta is like the king of curse techniques aside from Gojo, right? Like, and then not using Rika, obviously. Like there's so many ways Yuta is able to hold back that doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't going all out physically. Yeah. So I'm wondering if his max like cursed energy aura pool was used to enhance himself physically to scale to Yuji, or maybe he wasn't even using all of his cursed energy like in that fight, and he has like way more that scales to like Toji or Maki.
I wouldn't go to the extent of saying Toji or Maki necessarily,
Right? Yeah.
because I think
That seems intense,
that's a
right?
big jump, right? Because I think the gap between them is
Yeah.
large, but I do think that you can kind of use context clues to say Yuta, and I'm talking physically here, was holding back, and there's a couple of reasons. For one, Yuta, even though he's consistently shocked at Yuji's speed, it's not shocked in the sense of like how can somebody be this fast? It's like I'm surprised you're this fast. Like you're this fast too. Like you shouldn't you like this speed was supposed to be able to get you, right? And then after that, even though he was impressed by his speed, Yuta then is able to continuously like Yuji counters, but you'll notice that every time Yuji counters, like physically, Yuta is able to counter him, right? Yuta never really seems like even when his katana gets broken, he kind of just like he says this was never going to be easy with this deadpan stare on his face, right? And he seems to bring out Rika out of like out of ease, just because he's like, okay, dude, you're running around like this little rodent, right? Let me just hold still, and I'm gonna kill you real quick and bring you back. I don't personally think. I mean, also the last statement where he's like, "We're just playing, Rika." Like, I don't. It's just like it's mad weird.
Yeah. I'm not saying Yuta's like not a monster.
Yeah.
Like he obviously cleans Yuji every single day of the week. I'm not disputing that, right? Like this is not up for discussion. I'm just curious if like Yuta's cursed energy physical enhancement thing just kind of caps out at Yuji with cursed energy level, and like obvious, but like that's not a small amount, right? Like Yuji with cursed energy level is like a weird thing in and of itself. So like obviously to any other person with like 4 exceptions if you count Noya and Nabito's speed as like an individual stat, but like Maki and Toji as well, like that's it. Like that's the like peak human physicality right there in Yuji. So I don't think it's necessarily something to scoff at if he is like only able to max out at Yuji with cursed energy level. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I wonder if he can go beyond that.
So one, I think there's a narrative implication that like even physically he's surprised because he's impressed by by Yuji's like competence. He's like, of course you're this strong and this fast. You're a Gojo student, but never once is he like I don't get the vibe that he's like astounded by the possibility that somebody can do that. I think it makes a lot of sense that he is more like just he continuously is like scaling himself up to keep up with Yuji, because I would imagine if he like were to like assuming he has higher levels to go to, right? If he were to amp himself to his full extent and then just try to kill Yuji, if Yuji is not matching up to that, he would kill him in a way that isn't going to allow him to revive him, if that makes sense. Like, I would imagine that even though Yuta's reverse curse technique is very potent, there are limits to it. So if he were to damage Yuji too much, it would basically mean like, damn, now he's actually dead, right? Or Sukuna would have to come out and heal him or something in a scenario that Yuta probably wouldn't want. And also, the other reason I say that is because it's actually from this chapter where they say like the situation inside the Sendai city barrier has reached a peak far surpassing the one in Tokyo, right? And and then Yuta is able to take out one of like the 4 top tiers easily, like casually, right? He just slashes through him or whatever. It doesn't really seem like maybe he used Rika. We don't know the ins and outs of that fight, but to me, it just looks like Yuta just overpowered this character. And
Oh yeah, no, but you know, okay, so I want to explain this tweet. I don't know if you saw it, but I was just kind of going through the motions with this chapter on
okay.
Twitter, as I'm sure you were as well. And one of the things I said was next week's chapter is either going to be a gag chapter or it's going to be like the Yuta's version of the Megumi and Yuji
Yeah.
arc where he has like fights for like 3 or 4
Mhm.
chapters. And when the thing I didn't really explain that well was the gag chapter part
Yeah.
of it. So what I mean by gag chapter is this could just be Gege's like sense of humor of this is Yuta, it's not Yuji or Megumi. Like there's no opponent here for him to like have this arc with. Like so either he uses like 3 opponents like per chapter basically to fill that void, or the gag chapter is like he finishes them all off in like 3 pages, and then the rest of the chapter is fuck, I forgot their name.
Is it Takaba? Nah, maybe I'm.
No, not the lightning
Oh,
one,
Kashimo.
or the one
Kashimo,
that's
yeah.
Kashima. Yeah, and then Kashima is like, "Oh, you're not Sukuna, but you'll do." And that's my personal like theory
Yeah.
about what next week's chapter is going to be, and you heard it here first, folks. And I'm going to send you my address, and when I get that theory right, I want you to send over some flowers.
Got you. So I'm gonna say this. I think it's going to focus on
Uh-huh.
Yuta for a while for 2 reasons. One, I think
Okay.
the tone of Yuta's final page is serious enough to kind of like switch back and forth between that and maybe what's happening with Megumi and Angel. I don't think it's necessarily going to be only Yuta because I don't think we necessarily need that much. But
Mm-hmm.
one reason is I think the tone of Yuta is much less lighthearted. Or it's not necessarily. Nah, that's not true. Yeah, it's not
Lighthearted,
lighthearted, right? And none of JJK is.
right?
But I think like characters like Yuji or like a Hakari would be much more fitted to that more lighthearted tone of finding these opponents and fighting them, right?
Wait, dark in the sense of like he's gonna get worse people to fight,
Well,
or he's just like so overpowering as an opponent and like he's fully serious, so nobody's surviving
I
him.
think I
Kind of
think he's
dark.
getting worse opponents, but I think all this is going to be it. I think Akutami is going to illustrate to us what these fights are going to look like, relatively in depth, but only as a way to show Yuta's abilities and explain to us why he's only second to Gojo and like being a prodigy or whatever, right? Rather than showing to us like
Oh
why he
yeah.
struggles. And I also think the other reason is with the I'm pretty sure I remember Akutami doing this previously, but I'd have to remember. Um, but I think that Yuta is most likely just going to be. I think it'd be beneficial for him to coincide Yuta chapters with the Western release of the Volume Zero. Maybe that's just my headcanon. Probably is just my headcanon, in fact. But I think that'd be pretty dope.
Yeah, that's what this podcast is about.
But yeah, I think we've been in desperate need of some Yuta focus. So I'm pretty interested in seeing how this goes down. But I also wouldn't complain if
So
Kashima shows up because I think Kashima is going to go crazy.
so you're not part of Team
I'm
Gag?
not a part of Team Gag. I think Yuta's going to play it pretty straight.
Ah.
But I will say this, because we mentioned Kashima, and I think you were pretty skeptical of his strength previously,
Mm,
right? So what do you think
mm,
about this? Kashima at one point had 200 points, right? More than anybody else we've seen so far. More than
okay.
Higuruma, and more than these characters that are like said to be deadlocked in power, and their deadlock is like far surpassing anything that happened in Tokyo, which includes Higuruma, Yuji, Megumi, and Reggie, and all that stuff, right? Do you think that that's indicative of
Um
Kashimo being stronger, or like
no, I think the other sorcerers are just weaker. Like Higuruma is obviously like an exception to the new sorcerers who got their cursed techniques awakened pretty like relatively early. No, not early. What's the word for something not happening that long ago?
yeah, okay, yeah, I got you. Like they were
Yeah.
awakened. They were awakened basically.
Yeah, their awakening wasn't like so far back that they had all this time to train, but like Higuruma was like obviously like a legit prodigy in using his curse technique and everything. So despite him having it for such a short amount of time, he was using it with like expert level finesse essentially.
Gotcha.
but I think he's more of an exception than the rule. So I have to imagine the other people that got awoken with new curse techniques are probably not in the same boat
I would
and
agree, but
are more or less just point fodder.
sure. Um, we'll see though, because I think that like because they're these characters because they're in a deadlock, they're implied to all be special grade or not necessarily special grade. The curse is special grade, right? Um, but
Mm.
that could just mean all of these are like high grade one
Also,
sorcerers or whatever.
bro, just a few like little things about the thing with Yuta, real quick. Did you also get skeeved out by that one panel of the guy that Gege said had the most cursed energy out of anybody there?
Um,
It
no,
was like
I was surprised. That seems dope, but
oh, okay. Yeah, it's weird, right? Because like the way, like I don't know if the fan scans did it. Which, by the way, dude, fan scans easily solo the fucking official release on this one, right?
yeah, I
Like
think
they just hit
they didn't
different.
do the one thing that they did. So the Fujiwara clan thing is pretty interesting because that's in relation to Yuji, not Yuji, Yuta and Gojo's like being descendants of a different clan that are supposed to be like in feuds with these in their past, which is pretty cool. But also,
Remind me.
so you know how like whoa fuck you haven't read or watched Jujutsu Kaisen Fallen Zero, right?
No, I'm waiting until March 18th, baby.
Damn. Okay. Okay, it's not a plot spoiler, it's just like a relation spoiler, I guess, kinda. I don't know if you want me to it's not like telling you what goes down. Fuck, I don't know. I don't okay.
No, it just I didn't clock this in the chapter.
Okay, yeah. No, no, no. But
Was this like
this is related to something we learn in volume 0, basically. So so
okay?
it's I mean, it's
Uh,
play I don't know, whatever. I'll just leave it. I'll basically everybody who knows about like what the relevance of like the Fujiwara clan is to the Sugura clan or whatever, or descendants of it per se. It's not a huge deal yet, so you should be fine. But the second part I liked was like they were like he is second only to Gojo Satoru, like or he's only second,
a
yeah, a
prodigy,
prodigy rather than like
prodigy.
an unnatural powers or something like that. I thought that was pretty weird.
Yeah, like for some reason, like a prodigy just kind of hit different.
Yeah,
Like it was like more like
yeah, for
visceral
sure.
than the official scans.
Yeah.
So there's that. Just real quick. Second, like I was trying to say, I don't know if the fan scans did that thing where they were describing that guy specifically, and the translation was he boasts the most amount of cursed energy, or he has the most amount of cursed energy. Because one's like a descriptive statement, and one's
It's
like
something,
a thing
yeah.
a character just kind of
I'm
yeah.
assuming these are meant to be. I would think if it's in line with everything else, it's descriptive because like all of these other things are talking about like traits of them. Like so, for example, like descriptive traits. Like this character has 2 self-sufficient Shikigami. This character is part of this clan, and their technique allows her to do this. And this cockroach only like pops up at certain moments. I would assume it's descriptive,
Ugh.
but I don't think boasting the most cursed energy in this context is meaning he has more than Yuta. Someone was saying that like it could be it very well might be a situation where it's about output rather than capacity. So at any point in time, no other person can put out this much cursed energy or put out as much cursed energy as this guy, but Yuta could have more, basically.
Yeah, that sounds like Giga's
Yeah.
writing.
Which I think is pretty interesting. Like
Uh,
I think that's a very like that's something that I think honestly is a little not worrying per se, but that's kind of wild that you can just maybe it's a technique or something like that. Because like we've seen curses in particular shoot out curse energy. Like the special finger bearers spit out curse energy at Yuta and not Yuta, fuck Yuji and Megumi,
Yuji.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm
Huh?
thinking that was like kind of fodder. It was a fodder amount of curse energy. So I'm thinking like what
I
is
mean,
spitting out not fodder, but I mean it just it wasn't this massive
no,
ability.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean, but like we don't even know definitively if that's like what that guy uses cursed energy
Yeah.
for. For all we know, he could
A
have like
technique that
a
yeah.
cursed technique. Yeah, like sure, he might have. Just like let's assume he has the most amount of cursed energy than anybody else in this game, right? Which I personally find completely implausible. Because if you're Yuta and you have more cursed energy than Gojo, like that should be it, right? Like that should be the cap
Mhm.
amount. I don't even know how much Sukuna has, but you'd have to assume it's like as much as Gojo, if not around the same level.
Quick question. Like I know having more curse energy than Gojo is impressive, but like why is it impressive? Like do we I mean, let me phrase my question like this. At any point in the series, is it ever stated that he has like more, because obviously he has a lot of cursed energy, but is it supposed to be
It's
like above other characters by a large margin? And if so, where is that like kind of implied, I guess?
So I think my understanding of it or my reading of it comes from the fact that Gojo's techniques just require so
Mhm.
much, even before he like did his infinity
Okay.
hacks. Like when he was still a teenager, right? Like you still need like so much cursed energy to activate any of Gojo's cursed techniques, even before he awakened purple. So he literally just has to have an insane amount to go on for as long as he did, for consistently as long as he did with the powers that he
Okay.
has.
I can see that. 'Cause I was
Like
gonna say,
yeah, like
like the activation of
go on.
domain expansion multiple times a day, that's
Yeah,
attributed to finesse, at least from my
yes,
understanding. So I
yeah.
was wondering if people were like deriving, because I always thought, okay, yeah, he can do this, which is, I think it's fair. Like Teenage Gojo didn't have the ability to really, did he? No, he did. He had to, because that's what the Six Eyes are for. That's like their sole
No, the
ability.
six eyes are for yeah, but the six eyes is was for perceiving it, right? His abilities were still like blue.
No, no, no.
Like he had
I
blue.
agree, but I'm saying the Six Eyes gives you like enhanced perception, but it also gives you greater understanding and manipulation of cursed energy. That's why when he looks at somebody, he can tell what their cursed technique is off rip, or at least get a general idea. So that's why, remember that clone guy he fights or whatever?
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
this panel you're talking about. I've never really considered that before. That's really interesting. Like Gojo, I guess, could just have like a normal or average cursed energy amount, but hacks just kind of make it
Yeah,
infinite.
that
So
that's I didn't necessarily, because I think it's fine to assume, okay, he's the strongest, he has a lot of cursed energy, but is it like this amount that is so insane that Yuta having more is super impressive? Probably just because that's like how the statement is portrayed. So I can assume that, but I'm just wondering if anywhere previously in the series it's like he has so much, right? Because I always thought that the Six Eyes allowed him to perform this like um intensive amount of cursed energy related work through finesse rather than just like raw amounts. I could have been mistaken on that, but that's how I
no,
thought that the Six Eyes is like. Well, I know the Six Eyes allows
no.
for finer manipulation. I was just wondering if maybe it was to a worse degree or something like that.
It's really funny that we're having this discussion on a day you released Gojo's abilities explained,
Yeah,
basically.
that's the Limitless. The Six Eyes come in next week.
Maybe we've just been conditioned into thinking a lot of cursed energy is
Hmm.
impressive because that's like the power system. So it's kind of like it, like in Hunter x Hunter, if you're like this guy has the most Nen out of anybody, or in like Bleach, this guy like Kenpachi has like the most Ryatsu out of anybody. You're like, or not Ryatsu, but like Reishi out of
Hmm.
anybody. Obviously, he has to be like super strong, right? But in JJK, I don't think it works like that. Now that I think about it, because for example, Yuta having more cursed energy than Gojo is already kind of a
Yeah.
flex, right? But if we're talking practically, Yuta having that amount of cursed energy is more dangerous because it's Yuta and he has the ability to copy other people's abilities, which I'm really hoping Gege maintains in like JJK official, not like a thing he left at zero.
Yeah.
It's like one of the few things that like got spoiled for me. But
Well,
aside
oh,
from that,
I thought you got that from Kenjaku, because Kenjaku says it in the mainline series when he's talking to Gojo.
Kenjaku's dialogue about Yuta in the mainline series was about Yuta's. He's not the next Satoru Gojo. Was I think what he was just.
I
It wasn't
I
really
agree.
like
He's just
yeah,
like limitless cursed energy and the ability to copy techniques. I don't see what the big deal about
yeah.
him is. That's where I thought you got the knowledge,
Oh,
because he's basically saying, even with all that, right? He's not you.
I think cursed energy is only important in situations that your cursed technique relies heavily on the amount of cursed energy you
Mhm.
have. And I know that sounds like dumb in this case because you need cursed energy to have your cursed technique
Mhm.
work. But I mean, like for example, let's say you're Toto. I'm assuming that Boogie Woogie does not need a lot of cursed
Yeah.
energy to like work, right? Like I'm assuming even if he was at like 5% health, he could still do the same amount of Boogie Woogie as he did in his fight with
I mean, he
Hanami.
did.
Like
He got hit
it's
with in the chest with a black flash and was still able to pull it off.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's not like, like the activation or cost is not high, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So for a technique like Mai's, it's like actually held back because her cursed energy amount is just pathetic, right? But I've had this discussion with you before, and I said if Yuta had copied Mai's technique, he would literally be unstoppable.
yeah. He would be very insane. And I also think that, like,
Yeah.
even for general people, though, I do think cursed energy, like, having more is just a good thing because we see that with Yuta, even when he's not using a technique, amplifying your body is just, it just is crazy. Even with Yuji, right? Even though Yuji's base stats are
Mhm.
crazy, like, or let me put it like this, right? Let's use Megumi, for example, because I think he's actually a very good example. He is, his physical
Mhm.
constitution is, relatively speaking, weak. But when he amplifies himself with cursed energy, he can like not instantly die from having the pressure of like 2.4 tons worth of weight on his body. Right. So
Yeah.
it's able to amp you quite a bit. Now, I think Megumi has a substantial amount of cursed energy because I'm pretty sure like clan. That was,
Oh, he would need
I was about
to
to.
like do the shit
I
he
was about to say some.
does.
So I was about to say clan members. Okay, members of
Oh my
specific
god.
Jujutsu Sorcerer clans. Like, God, that was about to be so wild. Anyways, probably.
Bro, it turned into Zoro for
Oh
a
my
second.
God. Okay, but yeah, they just have to. Like, he just has an intensive ability, basically. Okay, so I think Yuta's gonna go wild, and I'm interested to see it. Now, I want to talk about talk. Is it talkable? I feel like it is. Okay.
Yes, okay, but before we get into that, I'm curious, how do I say this? How do you scale Yuta? Just to kind of cap it all off. I'm curious what your take
Like,
is. Also, did you give this chapter a 10, by the way?
yeah,
Like you didn't actually give your
yeah.
score.
I have it at 10, but I mean, I throw out my tens
Oh, okay.
much more willy nilly. Like, for me, Jujutsu Kaisen has been on a 10 for at least like the past 3 chapters in a row. It's just been because like, to me, when I can like literally, when I'm just reading a manga and I'm like getting like almost uncontrollably hype, I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say besides this was great, right?
Ah, okay.
But yeah, let's see. Where do I scale Yuta? That's an interesting question. Clearly, special grade, obviously. But like, what
Right.
character do I think? It's honestly kind of weird. He vaguely, huh? That's kind of hard because I don't think there are very many characters in his like general tier of strength. He's so far above Yuji and like Megumi that they're not worth comparing to him. But he's clearly
Right.
not like a Gojo. Now, maybe out
Okay.
of pocket to say, but I think he probably is like in that
I know it's coming.
15 fear,
There we
15
go.
fingered
That's what
Sukuna
I wanted to
area.
know. That's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know in the event that like, he's really trying to kill Yuji, he gets, he obviously does it cuz it's Yuta,
Hmm.
come on. And like Sukuna basically has to come out just to like heal his heart basically, but Yuta just like won't let up and he's like attacking Sukuna
Hmm.
now. That fight, in my opinion, still goes Sukuna's way 10 out of 10 times. I was just really curious where you'd scale Yuta in terms of
So
Sukuna.
that's it depends. So that depends on a lot of factors. Based is
Shoot.
if he can copy curse techniques without like any. Now it's unlikely that this is the case, right? But I'm just saying if
Mhm.
he can copy curse techniques without any sort of special circumstances, I don't know. I would imagine that
It's
outside
hard.
of a domain expansion, I think if he can copy any
Oh,
technique, you can make an argument for him winning. And the reason is because Yuji should have a grasp of Sukuna's abilities because at least from what I'm aware of, what Sukuna perceives, Yuji perceives when he switches back, right? That's why he was able to see every person um like Sukuna killed, right? He was able to like sense it or whatever. That's why he like throws up blah blah blah.
uh, I think he just kind of used context clues, saw that there was like a giant hole in the city that was kind of perfectly carved, and you put two and two together. And also, like, Sukuna set him up in the perfect position to view that before the switch happened. Like, he wanted Yuji to see it.
That's fair.
So,
So do you think he's not
yeah,
aware of like what Sukuna did when he was
I don't think Sukuna, or sorry, I don't think Yuji's aware of Sukuna like Sukuna is aware of Yuji. Because Sukuna's just like chilling on the inside like all the time. And I don't even really think he like listens.
What do you think about the sequence?
So,
Oh no, there Yuji should have to know about it because when Yuji's like freaking out in Shibuya, right? We obviously see he knows the
okay.
civilians die, but he also has memories of um Himiko, whatever, one of the girls with like the phone curse technique dying, and he
Oh,
remembers meeting Panda. So he should actually I don't know why it seems like that. That's so weird. Anyways, I was trying to show you the panel, but I'll just share my screen real quick. He should actually be able to this right here is what I'm referring to. He should be able to pick up on what Sukuna did. Now he's probably not an active participant or viewer, I mean, but it's probably just like streamlined into his head directly after it happens. Um, He sees
Oh.
Panda, which he shouldn't know about, and he sees them die.
Oh, I got you.
So
Okay, yeah.
if now my follow-up point is knowing this, right? He then asks
Mm,
Yuta to, if he switches to Sukuna, kill him, right? Because Yuji at this point is scared that Sukuna will come out and kill Megumi at some point in time, right? So he's just like, I've ingested 15 fingers, right? Um,
mm-hmm.
but if I ever switch with him again, don't hesitate to kill me. I think you could do that, right? So if now this is assuming like Yuji understands what he saw, like he can comprehend Sukuna's full strength or the strength that he even displayed in that fight. But if he can, he's a good source of information to say, okay, Yuta relative maybe above Sukuna, right? Because it's not just like he's throwing this
Wow.
out. 15 finger, of course. I don't think he's above 20 finger.
No, even still,
Yeah.
like I'd say Yuta maxes out at like 6 or 7 finger
So you think
Sukuna.
he's losing to Jogo?
Here's my reasoning, right? Would Yuta be able to kill Maki or Toji without Rika?
Let me think. I'm not sure. They're weird, so I don't know. They scale weird.
Yeah. So here's my logic, right? Physically speaking, Megumi puts Toji like corpse puppet at 3 finger Sukuna physicality.
Yeah. I've had
Right, because he's experienced
continue.
both. So I'm willing to be conservative and say Maki and Toji are 3 to 4 fingers of Sukuna physically, which in comparison to the rest of the verse is like basically god tier, right? 20 finger Sukuna, sorry, 10 plus finger Sukuna and like not even 20 is just so far beyond any other character aside from like Gojo that it's not even like fair to put them in the same ballpark, because take for a second Jogo getting just absolutely played with, like he was like Sukuna was toying with him for the entire fight, right? And that was like Jogo, right? And Maharaga was basically like the king of adaptability, right? And it was like, I'd say maybe 11 to 12 finger Sukuna levels of like annoyance, and I'm being super generous with Maharaga.
Okay, so few points to go over, right? Like I think that are like kind of errors in the line of thinking, right? So the first one being kind of like Toji relative to these other characters, specifically Jogo, right? So you think that like Jogo is specifically like stronger and faster than Toji, like I guess that's the first question that I need to be aware of.
Oh, that is tough. See, I have a hard time with Gojo specifically because it's okay. Are we really getting into the weeds again? You know what? We're getting into the weeds again. I don't care. I don't think Gojo's necessarily all that powerful in the grand scheme of things, because the like majority of the reason he's a threat is because of A, his perception of how cursed energy flows because of the 6 eyes, and B, how he can use the 6 eyes to like maximize the efficiency of his own cursed energy and innate techniques, right? And then lastly is just the techniques themselves being very powerful. But I think Gojo as like a specimen is really kind of carried by the fact that like most opponents can't even like touch him, let alone cast a domain in the first place, and then, you know, be in a position to overwhelm his domain. So Gojo just kind of brute forces his way through most fights, which, you know, isn't a problem, right? Like that's technically being the strongest. But when you get into like physical feats and shit like that, I definitely don't think he's anything special. Like probably he maxes out at like Yuji with cursed energy level, and I'm being super generous.
Okay, so
just speaking physically enhancements. Sorry. Just
let's
finish.
get okay, like enhancements with cursed energy, basically. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, to his physical body.
So, do you think Jogo scales higher than Yuji in terms of physicals?
Jogo is probably physically much more physically superior to Yuji than I think. Yes, you know what? Yes, I've thought about it. Jogo is easily like physically superior to Yuji. Like that is my definitive take. I thought about it.
Sure. So if you think that, you therefore have to think that Gojo is much stronger than Yuji. Even like not obviously, because obviously he's stronger than Yuji, right? That's not, but like physically faster and stronger. And I'll show you why in a second, because he just, for like with Infinity being useless, he deactivates it, counters Hanami and Jogo at the same time, rips Jogo's arm off, and then blocks Hanami's attack like almost simultaneously, right? Like
Hmm.
all physicals. Like Jogo throws a
So
punch.
now I'm kind of thinking back to the first thing we touched on, which was is Yuta's enhancement of his own body capped at Yuji with cursed energy level right now? If Yuta has more cursed energy than Gojo, then that has some very interesting implications there. When
Yeah.
you put it like that.
Yeah, and I think that kind of fits into the idea that like Yuta is on that Sukuna level. So I think, right, that Jogo. So are you aware of like the feats I'm talking about when Gojo like does all this physical stuff? If not,
Yeah,
I can show you real quick.
bro,
Okay,
I
yeah.
have that fight imprinted in my brain.
Got you. Because it's important because we know that like Gojo can't use techniques or he doesn't use like because usually he uses blue to move faster, like basically teleport, right? But Kenjaku explains that he can't use it here or also crush the non-sorcerers with cursed energy.
Okay, so do you put him above Toji and Maki's stats,
In
physically
terms of it,
speaking?
yeah, I do.
So wait, you think Yuta maxes out his cursed energy enhancement? He just like solos Toji and Maki
I mean, it depends on
without
if you
Rika?
think, yeah, yeah. If you think like base to base, Gojo is of similar physical constitution to Yuta, then sure. But I think
No,
Yuta's
but
physical
like
body is considerably weaker. So it
no.
like
Also, Gojo is like a 6'3" Adonis as a human being. I'm not even gonna like this.
yeah.
That's not even yeah. But Yuta just seems to have like considerably more cursed energy. If you
Hmm.
catch like, because I'd say Gojo's is probably like what 3 inches above his body in terms of cursed energy being visible, and like Yuta's is like a fucking like he's swimming in it.
Sure. I guess it depends on if you think cursed energy, when you're using it to amp yourself, is additional or multiplicative. If it's multiplicative, then Gojo's physical like difference might be much more impactful. If it's additional, then Yuta might be able to amp himself to the same level of Gojo. Um, it kind of depends. But regardless, that's really getting super in depth when you don't necessarily
Yeah,
need to. I think
but
that Gojo is faster. Than Toji and Maki, right? I don't think they'd be able to touch him even if he did have Infinity deactivated. Um, but I also think Toji is implied to at least be in the same realm of speed as Jogo. I don't think he'd be much slower because
no, I think he's probably at the same level physically because he just bullied Dagon in like 30 seconds.
yeah,
So like if that didn't even phase him and we saw how like dangerous Dagon was, right? I'm assuming somebody like Hanami is like 3 minutes of work and then somebody like Jogo is like 5 to 7 minutes of work for Toji.
so that the issue with that though is that it makes the finger scaling inconsistent, right? Because if Jogo is 8 or 9 fingers of Sukuna, which he's stated to be, that is said to be like a little bit generous, but I don't know how much you think generosity equals in terms of like additional fingers. But
Well, okay, I forget if this is like a scene that I'm misremembering from a different series, so correct me if I'm wrong here. But wasn't it like upon seeing I think it was Sukuna's power or Gojo's power, the person was like main villain, you lied to us. They're like way stronger than you let us on. Is that I
here
feel like that's JJK.
I'll show you. I think I know which scene you're talking about, but what Jogo said is he's like, so he remembers how strong am I in terms of Sukuna fingers. He said being generous, I'd say about 8 or 9, and he says Jogo
Yes,
says
yes.
I knew, but I didn't think
Yes.
the difference would be this great. So
Yeah,
he's
it was when
aware.
yeah, it was when
Yeah,
Sukuna like shattered his jaw. I remember
yeah.
now.
So it's not that he was lied to. It's that he thought the difference between 9 fingers and 15 fingers wasn't going to be this great. He thought he'd be able to land a hit on him,
Uh
basically. So it's just that like he underestimated the amount of difference that each individual finger makes.
So, do you think Toji would be able to finish off Jogo? Out of
Um,
curiosity,
Probably. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll throw in. I'll let you use the inverted spear of heaven in the scenario. Toji gets
Then
it.
yeah, probably.
Get the fuck out, dude.
Why not?
How's he surviving Coffin of the Iron Mountain?
I mean, he just kills him before he uses it. I think that's the easiest argument to make. Um,
But
If he,
Toji doesn't like outclass him to the point that he just can't perceive his speed. Jogo's not so weak, you know.
I mean, yeah, but Toji didn't outclass Gojo to the point where he couldn't see his speed. Like Gojo was able to like keep up visually. I just don't think that like I mean, I think that Jogo is not particularly skilled in combat, whereas Toji is kind of portrayed to be. He's more of a like
Okay,
big,
I
big
really,
fire technique like type of deal.
you know,
Um,
it's. I was gonna disagree, but then I remembered that he failed to kill off like 2 out of 3 people that were already pre-wounded. So yeah,
yeah, I
fuck.
mean, so like those casual attacks aren't doing anything to Toji if they hit him, right? Like he failed to kill a damn like an injured like one-eyed Nanami. He couldn't kill like Toji's like weak clone in Maki or whatever. And like I just think basically what happens is he does what Dagon did and he's like no cursed energy, what fodder. They fight and then he's like, "Oh damn, where's my head at?" Now here's a real meta argument, right? Here's a
Okay.
real wild argument. Like even if you want to say a domain expansion gets thrown, right? I want you to tell me what are the two components to make a domain expansion?
Cursed energy and cursed technique.
Okay. So, what does the inverted spear of heaven do, right?
Cancels out any cursed technique, right?
hmm So, and we see sort of a precedent for this, of Toji using inverted spear of heaven to negate a domain. At least from my understanding. Let me go to
God,
the
I
fight
would
real quick.
kill to see Mahito fight somebody like Toji or Maki, just to
Yeah,
see.
I think
Like
Toji'd
it.
be able to hurt Mahito, but that's
No, no,
another
no,
meta argument.
not even her. Just like fundamentally, I wonder if Mahito can like fix that
Oh, what do you mean, like change their
heavenly restriction. Yeah, because like any deviation to Maki and Toji's body specifically, like I can't imagine that cursed energy, the power system, is gonna let that fly.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
that seems like a exception to Mahito's ability.
yeah, I just think Toji would be resistant to it. I can't speak for Maki, but I think Toji would,
No, but
personally.
like resistant to like obviously the cursed energy aspect of it,
No,
right? But
I
if
think
it,
resistant to like to the technique. I think resistant to soul manipulation, basically.
I
Um,
mean, sure, but like resistance doesn't equal immunity. Like, okay, I veer on the side that like it's either complete immunity or he can actually remove the heavenly restriction and give them the ability to use cursed energy. Like, it's only one of
maybe.
those two things. Like,
Um,
I just don't think it's going to be like a typical case with them.
yeah, I think it'd be like kind of like with Yuji, where he can't use it on him. Um, like or it's basically like a futile ability. I was just gonna clarify real quick just so people
Uh
like
huh.
don't wonder like why I think Toji can. So one, there's the Jujutsu Kaisen fan book where he says that Kenjaku didn't take over Toji's body because heavenly restriction would have rejected it. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
also the fact that Toji, when he gets like revived, the reason his like body takes over completely is because his soul overrode the other person's soul and body. So he
Yeah,
has
because
like
the soul is
soul
the
manipulation.
body is the
Yeah,
soul. Yeah. So you assume just like it's such a ironclad contract that Mahito just isn't allowed to interfere in something like that. Like,
basically, yeah. So when he tries
ah,
to, and also when he tries to, like the fact that Kenjaku couldn't pull it off either. Like Kenjaku wouldn't use his ability, which is like sort of like manipulative of the soul. He didn't pull it off out of fear of Toji resisting it and rejecting his body. I just think Mahito would, after touching him, trying to activate, he'd be like, "What the like? Holy shit! Like it doesn't work." And then just try to fight like outside of that.
okay, I guess that's like a interesting argument for a different day. Oh, before we transition, I know a little side tangent, but like I think it'll get us there. Just to
Mhm.
kind of cap off this Yuta Sukuna thing. What's your out of 10 times blank wins ratio?
Oh, that's tough because Yuta is like mainly like narrative arguments. You don't have a lot of feats for him. I'll say 4, maybe 5 on a good day. 4 out of 10 times Yuta's winning. Because
Wow.
and this is based off the idea that like he has no simple domain or domain expansion of his own to counter the effects of Sukuna's, right? Assuming domain expansion equals loss, I'll say 4 out of 10 times he's winning if he just beats him before that. Um, that's
That
it.
is so interesting because
Mhm.
this is I'm assuming 15 finger Sukuna.
Yeah, not
Not
20. I don't think
23.
this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second, do you think like what's the level of difficulty you're giving Sukuna versus Rika?
Uh, I mean, I don't think she has nearly enough feats to contend with Sukuna. I think it's a mixture of the two that's very difficult, and Yuta's ability to copy techniques. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Rika
but
is
like
just
here's the
really
thing.
vague.
People can't even see Sukuna's technique, you know what I mean? So like he
Yeah,
doesn't, and he
but
doesn't reveal it because like it's more fun not to.
mhm,
So like he would have no idea what to copy. And aside from that, Sukuna has shown the ability of having multiple techniques himself, so it's not like he's at a variety disadvantage either. Like it's still Sukuna. You know, like he's not,
sure.
and also like presumably Sukuna's also an insane prodigy. So like let's give that to him. There's no way that that Yuta can outsmart Sukuna, outmaneuver
Mhm.
Sukuna, or out experience Sukuna. Like he just can't reach that level. He is basically what I assume like Sukuna at the beginning of his journey would be like. Like he's just so far beyond the realm of Yuta that like it's
Sure.
incomprehensible.
The only thing I have to say in rebuttal to that is just that Yuta has fought and won against people that have far more experience and far more versatility, and has overwhelmed them with like the amount of firepower he has at his disposal. So it's
It's
not
not
like it's not, and this is now sure you can say, oh, this character he fought is less experienced than Sukuna, but like this was a beginner Yuta who like had never used the abilities he was pulling out before. So
okay. Do you think that Yuta can beat Kenjaku on his own?
I'm not sure because I don't know how much stronger
All
Kenjaku
right.
is than Geto.
Okay, okay. Do you think Sukuna can just like solo Kenjaku in like 3 seconds?
I don't know. Kenjaku doesn't have any scaling. All Kenjaku hasn't had anybody who's relative to him yet. All he's
Bro,
done
okay.
is like
Keep in
beat up
mind
other people.
he's absorbed Mahito, so he has idle transfiguration.
Sure,
He has all the abilities Geto has and all the curses he has, plus more, plus maximum Uzumaki. So you can
sure.
just use all of Geto's feet, like boost them if you want. The maximum Uzumaki thing, which we have definitively seen,
Hmm.
and the fact that he has idle transfiguration now, and plus he has idle transfiguration of awakened Mahito.
Yeah, but Auto
So
Transfiguration isn't really a useful card to play against
play against
Sukuna.
Suk, I know, but he still has it. I'm saying
Yeah.
it's not like we don't know anything about Kenjaku's abilities, right? Like
No,
he is
I
still
agree,
like yeah.
but I just think that I just like we know about him, right? But like every character he's fought, he's just beat up, and that's why I think it's hard to like scale like a Sukuna, Yuta, or Kenjaku type character because we not to say they don't have upper limits, they probably do, but we just haven't gotten to see them yet. Like that's why even Gojo is much easier to scale than like those two characters because one, it's narratively implied that he's just above everyone else. Two, we've seen upper limits. Like we've seen like okay, this is what's difficult for him. Like these other characters haven't been put to the grindstone, if you will. Like Kenjaku, what like bullied Choso a little bit, and then like
Okay,
bullied
okay.
the rest of them. Like I don't know.
Dude, I know you're gonna argue with me, but like, hear me out, okay? Kusakabe pissed his pants
Reacted. Oh
with Sukuna,
yeah, and
compared him and
yeah,
Jogo to two elephants.
sure, sure, sure.
Couple chapters later, you know what he does? He
Reacts to Uzumaki basically.
deflects maximum Uzumaki.
Sure, but
I
okay.
mean, what one is like paralyzed in fear versus
He's paralyzed. I feel like he's paralyzed in fear because Sukuna is like standing in between them rather than like and like specifically saying eat this like because what Sukuna did is not just like be there, right? He said wait while this like be like this special grade fireball like this lava ball is falling at you and only move when I tell you, right? I don't think at least I don't think you're making the argument that like oh Kenjaku relative to I don't know why I forgot his name. Why can't I remember? Anyways, wow. I don't why can't
Kusakabe.
Kusakabe. Holy shit. I don't know. Like I know his
Yeah,
name. It just left
yeah,
me for a
I
second.
get that all the time.
Yeah.
It's very telling because in that situation, I think Kusakabe is he saw the main villain of this arc's equivalent of a domain expansion, and he was like, "I got this." And then he was like 3 feet away from Sukuna, was not attacking him, just threatened him, and made the choice to say, "You know what? This guy is so far above me. I'm gonna obey him. Like I have zero shot."
Do you think he thought he had a shot against Kenjaku though? Like
No, like the presumption is that he has no way of like defending against Sukuna trying to kill him in the same way that like Kenjaku was like trying to kill Miwa in that Maximum Uzumaki.
Sure.
Which you can't even dispute because like obviously it's gonna kill her, right?
Yeah, but I just don't think. I don't know. I think if Kenjaku was like really pulling out all the stops or anything, he would be much more surprised or alarmed at the fact that it was merely blocked. I think that
It's
it
still an
is like
impressive feat.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it'd be to me it's just as impressive as like fighting somebody who's holding back and winning. Like I mean I guess it's vaguely impressive, but I don't know if it really holds much merit because Kenjaku clearly isn't worried here. He's
Also,
not like taking any of them serious.
I know, but it's not like he's attacking them. Like it's not like I'm not saying Kusakabe can beat Kenjaku, right? I'm just saying he saw a more manageable like threat, or he took more definitive action with one over the other. Like he saw like essentially a no-win situation in Sukuna's case, but he still saw some level of like survivability in Kenjaku's case. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe.
And also
Which
keep in mind with Sukuna as like a character, when Gojo is sealed, Sukuna or Gojo's not there, Sukuna is the strongest being in the world.
I'm not saying I disagree, but like, why do you say it so definitively? Oh, you know
Well,
what? Here's a good
okay,
argument. Here's a good argument in Kenjaku's
okay,
favor, right? Just
okay.
popped into my head, right?
Hmm.
So we both agree that Sukuna is very individualistic, right? Like he
Yes.
wants to do what he wants to do, and conforming to other people's plans is like against his character completely, right?
Right.
And Kenjaku's plan of merging with Tengen is like almost the polar opposite of what Sukuna wants, right? I think we
Sure.
can okay.
But
Um
like we don't actually know what Sukuna wants. Is why I'm hesitating. Because like
I guess we don't
his
know.
desires changed when he met Megumi.
That's fair, but I don't think that like that changed like who he is as a person. Like I'll put it like this, right? I think merging with humanity, right, is a much more like intimate, like weird experience than somebody touching Sukuna, right, or touching him, whatever, right. We see that
Okay.
when Mahito touches, like just touches him, right, Sukuna like almost cuts him in half for that. He's
Yeah.
like don't you dare fucking touch me, you pleb or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I did now. This is purely spectacle. What am I trying to say?
Speculative.
Speculative. That's the word I'm looking for. It's speculation here, but I just think that Sukuna would not want to merge with humanity in the way that Kenjaku does, right?
I don't
Um,
think Kenjaku. Like I don't think. Okay. My theory is that it doesn't matter because it's not like Kenjaku would be able to do it because it's Sukuna.
okay, well, yeah, that moves into this. So that's fine, right? But here's my thing: Kenjaku seals Gojo away, and I'm not gonna say verbatim because I'm not sure like exactly the word, but he basically says, "I had to get rid of you because you were too
You're too
strong." Yeah,
strong. Yes.
he doesn't feel any need to put any restrictions on Sukuna. In fact, he encourages Yuji and Sukuna, like Sukuna's vessel, living and continuing to flourish or whatever. So that makes me
Well,
think, for some reason, whether or not you think it's strength related, he doesn't think Sukuna is that big of a deal to the
no.
fact where it's like a harm to his plans.
No. Because keep in mind, one, he made Yuji. Like Kenjaku made Yuji as a vessel for Sukuna. Like this was like
Hmm.
part of his plan, right? And the
Yep.
whole point of making a vessel is that like Yuji's hand is always going to be on the wheel, right? Like, and at this point, 15 finger Sukuna, 5 fingers left. Like Sukuna's never going to be able to like forcibly take control in the same way he did at Shibuya ever again, right? And that means that basically whenever Sukuna is going to come out from any point on after the thing at Shibuya, it's going to be either because he cashes in on his binding vow exception, or it's going to be because Sukuna, I don't know, it's Sukuna because Yuji like deliberately wants him to. But in no other case is Sukuna ever going to be able to come out, and that's the whole point. Kenjaku already made Sukuna's cage, and it's called Yuji. And
Yeah,
second,
but the problem with that is the time in which Kenjaku says you're too strong, Sukuna could have forcibly come out again because he only had like 5 fingers.
yeah,
He didn't have all of them.
I just don't think like Kenjaku has the ability to like do anything to Sukuna, and that's why Sukuna doesn't care to stop him, because it fundamentally has no effect on him, and otherwise he has no motivation to stop him because he doesn't care about anybody else. He like I think you're coming at it from, why didn't Kenjaku stop like make countermeasures for Sukuna, instead of why would Sukuna give a shit in the first place?
Well, if you think that like a Sukuna, I don't know, pre 20 fingers is matching up to Gojo, I think that's a debate to be had in and of itself. I think Gojo is a much bigger threat than Sukuna has presented himself to be at any point that we've seen in the series. Whether I don't want to get into the 20 finger versus Gojo debate. I don't really. I
No,
think that's
yeah,
like a
let's
completely different thing. But
yeah, that's a different episode.
I think the argument that like Gojo currently is the strongest, like he is stronger than whatever we've gotten to see from Sukuna now, still holds, right? And
Okay.
Kenjaku's like, you're too strong for my plans, right? If
Hmm.
Kenjaku's plans is to use Tengen as a merger for everybody, right? Everybody would include Sukuna. So even if he's like not directly saying, I'm going to take you down, right? The King of Curses or whatever. It still involves like roping somebody else into his plans. And in fact, he knows that his subordinates, mainly being Jogo, are like, yeah, I want Sukuna to roam free. And he doesn't have any problem with that whatsoever. Like, he's like, that's fine, I guess. I don't really care. Um, he doesn't seem to be worried in the slightest, where he has these like this 4D level like chess plan set out for Gojo of like,
Also,
dude,
okay,
you
here,
have to be
no,
gone. I can't have you here.
here's my rebuttal. You could consider the fact that Kenjaku just might want Sukuna to see what he's doing, because he deliberately says, "Are you watching, Sukuna?" etc., etc. And
Sure.
like
But
that's
I
definitely like a thing. And then you have to consider, maybe just maybe, that Kenjaku also didn't do this because Sukuna's part of the Culling games as a participant, which is something he needs. Because think about it, right? You get the King of Curses, you make a deal with him for your like big murder game that's based off of like collecting as many bodies as possible to complete this ritual, right? Who is collecting more bodies than an out of control Sukuna?
That's fair, but you're kind of contradicting an argument you brought up earlier, being that there's no such thing as an out of control Sukuna anymore. That doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
it could be like a plethora of reasons. My point is, if you take the case that like Sukuna, Yuji as Sukuna's vessel blocks him from doing this, then what you have is a situation where Sukuna can't interfere with you, so your plan goes smoothly, and then you have a situation where Sukuna is bound to like interfere in some way with the Culling games and go on a killing spree, which also benefits you. So for Kenjaku, it's a win-win.
Sure, but let's go with that second scenario, right?
Hmm.
Sukuna gets kills for the Culling games, right? But
Okay.
the issue with that is you still have a rampaging Sukuna. Like, what do you do as Kenjaku when he's storming through the entire, all of Japan looking for you, ready to kill you or whatever, right? You just like where like that's what I'm saying. Like he can like because it would be beneficial to have Gojo in the Cooling Games too, right? Have him just murder any sorcerer that comes in across him, right? But he can't take that risk. Like Gojo is too much of a threat to have him wandering about, right? He can't control him outside of this very, very, very specific, detailed scenario that he's planned out for who knows how long, right? If we're
Hmm.
saying that with Sukuna, he's like, you're fine to roam free in the Cooling Games, we are then saying that he doesn't take. Now, he's not. He's saying that there are essentially no like there's no way you can mess up what I'm doing here. And if you think that's because of planning rather than power, that's fine. But I do think that it's pretty clear that Kenjaku does not hold Sukuna in the same regard as he does Gojo here. He thinks that like there is absolutely no way I can have you around post here. But with Sukuna, he's like, it's fine. Um,
Because like I think that just Kenjaku's appraisal of Sukuna as a personality. It's not like, oh yeah, Sukuna is going to stop me because of, you know, like for example, also this is super important. It's not like Sukuna would even know what Kenjaku's plans are.
but he knows what his plans are through Yuji though, because he knows about it because of Tengen.
How would he know about the plan? What? He
Okay,
doesn't know
so
about
Yuji knows Kenjaku's plan now, right?
everybody knows Kenjaku's plan now because of the conversation with Tengen.
That's what I'm saying. Now Sukuna knows, so that Sukuna does know about Kenjaku's plan.
Okay.
And what was your point to be made earlier, though?
No,
You
it
said
just no.
Sukuna doesn't.
You just said Gojo knew.
No,
That's
no,
why I
not
got
Gojo.
confused.
Oh, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Gojo would oppose Kenjaku's forces, basically.
Yes, right. But that he'd do it as like a jujutsu sorcerer, not because of like it would do something to him. Uh, and also based off this most recent chapter, we've been led to believe that like the scope of the Culling games and the shit with Tengen and all this isn't like the full story. So for all we know, there's still more details to come and like more reveals about like what's going on, especially with like Kenjaku and the world leaders, the bomb, that whole thing. Like there's still more to the Culling games than we like know of. And I'm assuming Sukuna's presence is something that is going to be touched on because it literally needs to. Like
Sure.
Sukuna is now in the Culling games more or less. People damn it, what's the person's name again?
Kashima?
Kashima is like actively looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's officially in the Culling games with Yuji, right? Like he is a participant. He can't leave to go find Kenjaku or like stop him. First of all, Yuji isn't letting him out to do that. But all these situations kind of coalesce into me saying Sukuna's presence there is an accident on Kenjaku's part. And I think his apathy, or like what you perceive as apathy, is like part of the reason why. Like there's still more about like why Sukuna's there, like what Kenjaku has planned, etc., etc.
Possible. I'm not ruling out the possibility. I think that's just like a. I just think it's basically my argument amounts to he can't afford to have Gojo move past this step. With Sukuna, he can. Right. That's
Yes,
essentially.
but I think there's like either a higher purpose or honestly, he just trusts that Sukuna has like no motivation to stop him, or he's arrogant enough to think Sukuna, I mean, or Sukuna's like, or he thinks Sukuna's just so arrogant that like he can't perceive a situation in which somebody like Kenjaku is even able to do anything to him, so he just doesn't entertain the idea. Like take for and by the way, this isn't even the first time we've seen Sukuna act against his own self interest. Like the selfie girls, I'm not even gonna bother to remember their names, but you know who I'm talking about, right? They
Yeah.
literally offered him an additional finger on the spot if he did a thing for them, and he killed them for it just because he didn't feel like taking orders.
Yeah. That. I mean, I'm not saying something that doesn't go against his self interest. What I'm saying is Sukuna doesn't go against his own whims, right? Like
Yeah.
he
So
refuses
that
to do anything bothersome if he doesn't feel
yes.
like doing it.
So why would you? Yeah. So my thing is like you're assuming that the effect Kenjaku would have is something that would like be on Sukuna's whim.
What I'm saying is like because all we understand it to be because next chapter could happen and we get this like world altering revelation about like Kenjaku's plans, right? But as we know it, Kenjaku's plan is merging with all of humanity to become something greater and evolve, right? I'm just saying that I think that that is not something Sukuna wants to be like restrained to. That to me is antithetical not just to his self-interest but to who he is as a core character. Like it'd be like expecting Megumi to like have Yuji's empathy towards people or qualms of like killing people. I just think it's such a left turn. It's just such a like weirdly like out of character thing for him to be okay with that I think it's just a little strange. Because I don't. I mean, look, the point I made earlier was just Mahito touching him was enough to frustrate him to the point where he like almost cut him in half. Right? I can only imagine what being fused with like everyone would do. Like maybe losing his individuality. We don't know the specifics of it, but I just don't think. I just personally can't imagine a world where Sukuna is cool with that. Maybe he is. Maybe there's some benefits to it. Maybe there's stuff we don't know about. That's the beauty of an ongoing series. But I'm just saying, based off of what we know, it just seems very strange that Sukuna would just be like, "All right, cool. Like I'll just merge with all of humanity real quick," or I'm okay with like being subject to Kenjaku's plans.
I think this is just like it's hard to like come up with a definitive like right or wrong answer at this point for either of us because it depends on like the series progressing further down plot wise for either of us to know if we're right or not. So I
Mhm.
guess we could just say that these are our theories about where the series is headed with Sukuna.
Yeah,
How do I say this? Eventually, one of us will be right
yeah, that's true.
or wrong. We could both be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's also true. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like I thought, like for example, I thought Reggie was gonna get folded in like a chapter. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
I got my ankles broken, but so Gege do be switching up on us sometimes. So I will not
Yeah.
say that
And
like it has to be this one way.
speaking of Gege pulling some crazy shit, dude, we got to talk about Tabata. And I'm just gonna say right now, presumably the most OP technique in the entire series. I said it. That's my take.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I was just trying to come to terms with that. I was like, really? Is that really the most powerful technique? Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Um,
This is it, dude. This is like if the way I thought about it was he has the like most beefed up version of Mai's ability ever, and he doesn't even know it. He
yeah.
is literally Loki. He might be the most OP character in the entire series, and he has no idea. And I think that's
Yeah.
hilarious, which is
Yeah.
funny enough. Yeah.
I, I think it fits in a lot too. Like, with he's just too dumb to use it properly.
I don't even think he can use it on purpose.
I don't know. I feel like
Because like I think
maybe.
it would have to like it would have to be like he finds genuine humor in the thing.
Yeah. Imagine
Like
he's
even
like, wouldn't it be funny if Gojo got out of the box and then just
yo
boom?
did you see that? Did you see the tweet that was like they're gonna like fail to get Angel on their side or some other means. They're gonna explain all of this in front of Tabata, and he says, huh, it'd be funny if that guy thought out of the box, and then that's how Gojo was freed.
I didn't see it, but that sounds. I don't think I saw it at least, but that sounds fire. Not fire, but that sounds like a funny.
I
I
know
would
it's
laugh. I
I
would
know
laugh at that.
I know, and so would he, right? That's the whole fucking dude. That I love that too. Like that's such a meta aspect because like if you find something funny and like Tabata finds the same thing funny, like it happens, and I just think
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like that. Oh my god, dude. Gege, like he never stops. Like
Wouldn't it be funny if I
oh
could punch you through your infinity? Just starts beating
yeah,
up Gojo.
dude. If you told me this time last week that this following chapter was gonna reveal the most OP curse technique in the entire series, and you were to tell me it was oh my god.
Takaba really did just like casually. It's kind of like Haruta's, where like they have like an OP technique, but they just don't apply it in a way that's necessarily like too dangerous. Um,
Remind
but
me who
yeah,
Haruta is.
Haruta's the guy with the hand sword. He's the annoying guy who like snuck up on Megumi, um, and like cut him in the back or whatever after the Toji fight. Sukuna sliced him in
Oh
half
yeah,
after
yeah, yeah,
domain.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Oh my god, I hate that guy.
Yeah,
Oh,
but he had a pretty powerful technique too. Like he just stored up miracles that would
yeah.
keep him from dying, and it was just like, he just didn't. It just wasn't
I'm
applied in a way that was super dangerous, so he
I'm
just
like
never became super strong.
I'm like reeling from like the reveal. Like that's actually shocking, right? Dude, you come on, bro. Please talk to me here. I need somebody to like cope with.
I will say it's pretty wild, and I feel like it's a very like Gege way of writing something too. It's just like it's such a bomb to throw out there. Like, yeah,
Right?
this character could even contend with Gojo. I'm like,
He
oh
made
my
a point
god,
to say that too.
yeah, that is
Like
is it's just wild. And then
like
you know what's crazy? Right after
uh,
this, we get like a huge like plot reveal of like Angel descending down on
yeah.
Megumi, and just being like, it's like, yo, listen, yeah, I think that's kind of wild. I think it's very
Bro, JJK pacing is literally peak writing.
we went from, yeah, this character could possibly kill Gojo to, hey, I'm gonna descend from the heavens and like chill right above you. It's just wild, man. I'm feeling pretty ominous from this though.
Hmm.
I think that an angel appearing right above Megumi right after Reggie said, "I hope fate toys with you and kills you," is
Yeah.
very wild. I like if Megumi made one blunder, it was letting Reggie finish his sentence.
Yeah,
Uh,
honestly, I thought it was very poggers that he still gave Megumi the points, but he still had to get the last word in edgewise.
yeah, he was very very salty about that, about getting his shoulder ripped out.
But I don't think we've ever spent an entire episode on like one chapter before. That's crazy.
Yeah, we usually, I mean, to be fair, we derailed into like a bunch of versus battles and ideas and theories, but yeah, it did all
This is
spiral from one chapter.
part 3 of like just JJK episodes purely.
Yeah, I mean, when Nakatama makes such a very talk about a series that's so easy to talk about, I mean, like, what else can we do?
How long do you see the Yuta part of this going? Because I'm thinking Yuta part, Hikari part, and then finally like we get into like Act 2 of what I'm assuming is like 4 acts of a big major arc for Gege.
I'm not sure. So wait, you think it's gonna go Yuta, Hikari, and then who?
And then like that, then we get to Act 2, and then like it's like another lore dump where we learn
Okay.
more about like Kenjaku's perspective, etc.
So okay, do you think Maki's gonna show up in Act 1, or is this gonna be something
See,
later?
I'm thinking about Maki. A, I don't know where she is, and B, if she does come, I don't know which colony she'd be dropped in.
Yeah, time wise, I'm pretty sure like she's killed the clan on the same day that Yuta's starting to move. Like chronologically, she should still be like killing Zenin members. Maybe she's done with that like by the end of the day.
I mean, the
But
Culling games is kind of priority. Like the Zen and Clan
yeah,
members aren't going anywhere. Right?
yeah, no, they aren't. What I'm just saying is like what I'm saying is like because you said wait, like I don't know where she is. I think time wise, she should like literally be murdering the Zenin family because we skip forward to when she does that, and then we skip back. And I think November 12th is when she does it, and that's when Megumi and Yuji finish up their fights, and Yuta's
Oh,
like starting
whoa.
his.
Sorry, yo. Okay. Before we get back into this, some guy just like that's a cool theory. Okay, so before Angel came down on Megumi, he said
Mhm.
"stupid sister" before he fainted, and like he
Yeah,
saw like a flash of Tsumuki.
yeah.
So I tweeted about it, and I said, not only because I was responding to your tweet that said
Mhm.
very ominous, and I said not only that, but what was going on with the sister thing? It felt like he saw Sumiki instead of Angel. It also seemed like she noticed that as well, right? Like she noticed
Mhm.
what he saw, and a guy replied to me, and he said Sumiki might be the vessel for Angel.
That would be wild,
That would
and I
be
would.
so wild.
I don't know how I'd feel. I might get real sad if. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Not like in a bad way, but like wait. Hold on. Wait. Like, tell me. I want you to theorize with me for a second. I want you to theorize with me for a
Okay,
second,
okay,
right? So,
I'm here.
so hold on. No, wait. Okay, wait. I'm trying to think. So when she says that's no good. Okay, so go to the chapter, right?
Okay.
In when Tsumuki talks to Megumi, she has those little curl things that go up to her face, right? Like that her hair curls like up to her cheek or whatever. Angel has the same hair curls. I don't know, coincidence. I'm not
I don't know, man. You're starting to sound a little film theory, if you catch my drift.
I don't know. I mean, if we're going with the idea that like she's possibly the vessel, I mean, let's really think about it. I mean,
All
we
right.
see that vessels take on, or that the I guess the incarnation usually takes on the physical attributes of their vessel anyway. So like, why would it be strange? Assuming Angel is the vessel, why would it be strange that they have like similar hair attributes or things like that?
Wait. I just want to make sure about one thing.
Hmm.
I just need to confirm that JJK isn't going on break next week because I don't think I could handle it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Usually, doesn't it usually get announced in the middle of the week or no? Um,
No, it gets announced like on the chapter on the last
oh,
page.
gotcha.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's no good, Megami. Yeah, that seems like a hybrid of Sumuki and Angel. What the fuck?
And I think the fact that it doesn't show her face, kind of wild. But nah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean,
Okay, yo, that tweeter, like, he just blew my mind.
kinda interesting. I'll kind of keep that in the back of my mind as a possibility. That might devastate Megumi though.
I don't know why. Like, you're assuming that like Angel's personality would override the body.
I mean, yeah, if Tsumuki's a vessel, I don't see why like it wouldn't be like a Yuji Sukuna situation. Not necessarily to the like the like degree of like I guess aggressiveness between them, but I don't know why the like why Tsumuki's personality would be dominant when it's not her being the presenting person, I guess.
I don't know. She's still like. I guess we're gonna have to wait till next week to see why she singled out Megami. If it was for a Sumuki reason or because like it's the Culling games and he's a
Yeah.
participant that's like on the verge of death.
Yeah, like an easy kill. Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. Megumi cannot afford to have his technique stolen. Like he's one of the last characters in like the verse that can afford to just have his technique taken away from him. I'm gonna need Angel to chill out because I don't know. She's making me nervous.
What do you
Just
mean?
just because okay, her ability to steal curse techniques, the fact that Reggie was like, I hope fate toys with you and then you die, right? Mixed with the fact that he's being like it's almost like like irony that like somebody named or that somebody that name means blessing has an angel descending upon them. I don't know. I just feel like I'm getting very much ominous vibes from this. Like, why did the person who steals techniques away have to be here? Like, I don't know. Just nervous for my favorite character. Don't want him to get
Yeah.
done dirty.
You know, a small detail that I wanted to mention before we close here. Isn't it crazy that Yuta already has what? How many
7
points?
kills. He's got
Yeah,
7 kills.
35 points.
Hmm.
We don't really talk about, like, because we had a whole discussion about, oh, Megumi's not the same as Yuji. He's not like trying to be a hero, trying to keep his hands clean, etc., etc. But like none of us ever thought that like Yuta didn't have the stones for it. But like bro's just
Oh no,
he's just
Yuta.
like easy.
I'll say, yeah, he's not like a good person. I'll say that. Like he's not. He's very.
Like he's such a
Um,
baby face. You wouldn't think of it.
yeah. I mean, he's a baby face, except when he's like he has that lit. I saw this on Twitter. Where it's like there's something about Yuta's like dead, depressed stare that is just so fire for some reason. But yeah, he definitely like doesn't look very threatening. But Volume Zero, I think, does a good job to show like yeah, he's not like a good person in the sense that like you would think, oh, he cares about people's lives. He's like morally upstanding. Nah, he's wild. He's like one of the only people that is like so bent about killing people. Like, oh no, my morals, and everybody else is just like, all right, well, let me get my points real quick. Okay, cool. I think this is a good final question before we close out. Out
Uh,
of the three like members that were named left, who do you think is going to present, if they present him any trouble at all? Which of these do you think would present the most trouble to Yuta?
ooh. Uh. T- Takako, the lady who can control the sky,
Okay.
because I'm assuming it's kind of like having you know, the devil fruit that gives you control over like like an element or something, like
Like
sand
a
or
Logia.
yeah, a logia. Thank you. Um, how do you hurt them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if she's just like clouds, like that's just like the makeup of her body at this point. How do you hurt her? Like how do you strike her, right? And like you can't have Rika hold her because like it's still the same
Yeah.
problem. So
She seems to be like either she seems to have like some sort of invisibility properties as well, which or like she seems to be like because there's parts of her body that are like literally see through or whatever, right? I think her technique might be might be a little bit of a problem. The I was thinking the cockroach, and that's because of just the pure resilience of that cockroaches in real life have. I can only imagine a special grade cockroach could be just something wild to see.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the cockroach is the easiest one.
You think so?
Well, like it's Yuta. Like I like to give him a
Yeah,
little more credit, right?
sure,
But
yeah.
I mean, the easy answer or like the obvious answer seems to be the uh, Ryu Ishigori.
Hmm.
He's a hotshot because of just like the parallels with Yuta.
Hmm.
I just kind of don't want it. Like it seems too easy or like too
Hmm.
obvious. I don't. It
Yeah,
feels like Gig is baiting me.
yeah. I don't know. I just think it'd be super. Like, see, here's the thing. I got caught up with this last time. I said Megumi was gonna solo, and then he didn't. Right? I feel like I'm gonna
Hmm.
say Yuta's gonna struggle, and then he's gonna solo him or whatever. But I don't know. I think honestly, I think it's another crossroad where I think there's merit in showing Yuta like not struggle, but like go through his arsenal in order to beat them. In order to like build up like okay, this is what he can do, this is what he can't do, blah blah blah. But there's also merit in just like having them explaining their abilities, like oh I'm this powerful, I'm a special grade, I'm this that, and then he just cuts through them. I don't know. Either way, I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna be
See,
happy, so
so
I'm not gonna lie.
so that like that's the gag. That's the gag chapter theory that I had at the beginning of the episode.
Is that a
That's
gag though? I guess I don't know.
because that's funny, right? Like it's a subversion of
Yeah,
expectations, and it kind of like plays as contrast to Yuji and Megumi's like
like fighting for their
insanely
life. Yeah.
yeah. Like imagine, like I think that's funny. Like I'm on my Tabata energy right now, dude.
Mhm. I mean, I guess if that's what you meant by gag, I think I can somewhat think that it's like a 50-50 split of how it's gonna go. Um, I don't know. Maybe they're gonna struggle more just because they were like properly introduced and like no, the other guy was properly introduced. He got cut in half, so never mind. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Honestly, I'm probably not gonna complain either way with what Gege does. So I don't even. I guess I'm just throwing out ideas. I think that's about it we
Yeah,
have for the chapter.
yeah. Okay. I think that's everything we covered. I think like every facet of this chapter. I still feel like we missed something.
Well,
And I'm like, just
if you want to talk about the Remy thing, we can. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
oh
Um,
yeah, I guess I could just do that as closing thoughts. I said this on Twitter, and like you replied to me, and we had a whole thing about it.
mm,
So let's just get it out of the way. I'm not saying that I don't think it was a good writing decision. Just me personally, I think Remy keeps getting away with it, and it's
yeah,
really annoying. Also, the way Gege drew Demon Dog,
it was wild.
sick. Yes,
I was like, I'm like, am I scared? Like,
right.
this is terrible. I didn't know it was that big. I didn't like because maybe it's just the angle. I don't know, but it just looks like it's
It's cool
bigger
to
than a
because it
human.
shows like
Yeah,
Megumi's power from somebody
yeah,
who's weaker than him. Like I don't know,
yeah.
that's not a thing you see because you always see Megumi like fighting for his life every 3 seconds
Yeah,
with these fights, bro.
struggling.
Yeah,
And now it's just somebody that's like completely inferior to him. And
yeah.
they're like, "Oh my god, am I gonna die?" Like, hey, hold on. Yeah, no, never mind. Sorry. I so the thing that he heard in his head wasn't. It couldn't have been like Tsumuki by herself, right? Or it couldn't have been only in his head, right? Because Remy hears it, correct?
I'm still a firm believer in the Sukumi angel thing is connected in a major
Okay,
way.
it's possible, but I think, but like either way, if it's not, Megumi just had to interpret Angel saying that's no good as like Sumuki's words because Remy does like kind of parrot like the last word being good like as a question like what was that or whatever. I don't know, maybe
What did you think of the Remy thing?
I thought it was gonna happen anyways because if Megumi really wanted to kill her, like truly the same way he wanted to kill like Reggie or kill the other guy that the first kill he got, I think
Hmm.
he would have back there, right before she stabbed him or even after she stabbed him because she broke the promise as soon as she gave him up to Reggie, right? I don't think Remy would have been able to handle even just a fit like a hand to hand fighting Megumi. So there's no reason that he didn't kill her. I just think that he sees her more as like a distasteful, sort of like spineless wimp rather than like a bad person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that take.
And I just think that like Megumi can't justify killing a weakling, but he
I don't
can't
know. I
justify
feel
killing
like
a weak-willed person rather than killing like a bad person, I guess.
here's the thing. I actually slightly disagree.
Mhm.
Namely because Megumi was like on his deathbed more or less, and he still went out of his way to keep his promise. Like he was going to kill her. Like he made her a promise that she would pay, and like he was going to deliver whether it cost him life or limb. And I just gotta respect that about him, right? A plus like moment for Megumi right there, right? The reason I'm just like so firm in my Sugimi Angel thing is purely because if not for that interference, Remy would be dead, like 100%.
Mhm. I think it's
So I
possible. I just
like
I did yeah.
sorry, I just don't think it's a moral like it wasn't Megumi being it wasn't Megumi necessarily making a moral decision. There's either two things that happened. Either Angel canceled out the technique, Megumi fainted just because like that was it. Like he kind
Mhm.
of gave up after that. But the other one is just sure the voice of his sister got to him, and then he deliberately chose to cancel out to put away Demon Dog.
Yeah. I think Sumuki is the base of his morals in general. So like he believes what she believes basically. He just didn't realize that initially. Um like I just think that like he based his morals off of his failings with his sister, his failings to understand her. So when she or otherwise like his I guess you could say his inner voice is telling him not to do something, he's just like, damn, like all right, I guess this isn't what I'm supposed to do. That's how I interpreted the scene at least.
Okay. First off, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week with I think a more typical discussion. I think you and I are slowly just getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
With chapters coming back the way they are, etc., etc. Like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next week. Later.
I